What's up, guys? This episode was absolutely crazy. Stay tuned to learn things about wholesaling, fitness, and for all you singles out there, how to find the partner that's going to make your life accelerate. Coming next.
Let's go.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Adam's podcast. Today, we are joined by one and only Mike Jones. Who? You guys know who? Mike Jones. We're going to get into a little bit about this man's life. Very interesting story. Me and Mike have had a couple of business or dealings over the last year or so and gotten to know him more and more. And the coolest thing about Mike is that there's just more to uncover the more you get to know him. When I first met Mike, it was, very easy communication with him. A hell of a wholesaler, got a great system. He throws these amazing events in Tampa, very easy to talk to. But upon, pulling back the layers, we find there's a lot more to the story with this dude. So we're going to get into it today. Mike, what's up, man?
Awesome. I appreciate you having me, brother.
I feel like I'm going to look at you this way and just
I was going to say.
Here. I don't want to look at you in the screen over here, but.
For sure.
So for people that don't know you, tell us real quick who you are, what you do currently now. We'll get to the story.
Sure.
Earlier.
So I'm Mike Jones, the president of Elite Cash Buyers.
Guys, this episode of the Alim's podcast is brought to you by Cold Plunge. This is the Rolls Royce of all the ice bath units you're seeing now. It is all the rage, and they by far have the most premium unit. It is beautifully aesthetic to look at, so anywhere you put it, you're going to love to see it. It's going to be calling you in every single day. The cold water gives you so much energy, removes inflammation, gets rid of your body fat, and just all around builds your mental toughness by getting yourself again every single day. I love this unit. It is a set it and forget it type unit. You don't have to do much besides a little bit of water maintenance. If you're interested in buying one, use code 8LIMS at checkout.
Local wholesaler here in Tampa Bay area. Also have a development company as well. So we do a lot of new construction development, townhomes, things like that.
Got it. And so one thing I definitely want to do right now is people hear these terms, development, new construction, wholesaling, lending, private lending. And if you're not in the industry, it all just sounds like someone's talking about plastic surgery. If you're not a plastic surgeon, right, you don't know. So let's make that clear for people that don't understand. What is development right now?
Development is new construction. So when you drive by and you see a new single family home or a townhome being built, that's what development is. Someone that's going in and building something that isn't there. And typically when people ask me what I do, just to keep it super simple and interesting, just to kind of get their attention, is I just say I help people invest in real estate.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's what we do. We're a vehicle for most people. Even the wholesale company, we're just looking and finding opportunities for people. Development, same thing. We're giving investors a place to park their cash, earn a great return, and we're local operators.
Love it. And so most time development is a single family residence being built. It's not multifamily or
it could be either. It could be commercial. It could be single family. It could be multifamily. We really like to focus on the townhome model because you get into these bigger projects versus just building single family homes.
Yeah, there's more doors, right?
Exactly. Yeah. More job sites, more spread out.
So like an investor comes to you and they have already bought a property, or they come to you prior and they're like, hey, Mike, I have some money. I want to park somewhere. What do I do? What's the best flow for you?
That's a great question. So between my partner, David, and Caleb, they own the private lending company. So what we're able to do, we really have like three main departments of the companies, I guess you could say. There's DKC Lending, which is the private lending company. There's Elite Cash Buyers, which is the wholesale company. And then there's DKC Development. So typically when an investor comes to us with money, we offer them the private lending option, which is, typically a 10 to 11% return for them. If they're looking for something more aggressive, and we've worked with them before, that's when we get into the development projects and things like that.
And so where does the money come from development?
It's all private investors.
So other investors are providing the money. So just to really break this down, because I was actually explaining this to a friend recently, this nothing about real estate. And it's like, people are out there with money that they have the money. They may not have the knowledge on what to do with that money. So they'll work with private lenders and they'll say, here's money. They get a return on that money that's being lent out to others.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
So that money's being bought, and you guys are going to build a property, and at that point, the property gets sold to somebody, or someone holds the property, they own it, and they rent that property out.
Exactly. And we've actually found with the current market conditions and the higher interest rates, we've actually been partnering with people that own land. So we'll come in, we'll bring the construction financing, we'll do all the construction, and what we'll do is we will give them and agree upon an initial land value. So maybe they aren't able to sell it for how much they want in today's current market, or they just don't have the financing or the time or the expertise.
Build on it.
So they'll put up the land, we'll come in, we'll provide the construction financing because we get preferable terms. We'll bring all the experience, take over the entire project, and then we'll give them a part of the upside at the end as well.
That's huge. That's a win-win for everybody. Right?
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then wholesaling, right? People hear wholesaling all the time, and I think people hear wholesaling, they think about like products and goods, and they don't understand how it applies to homes.
Sure.
And I was just saying this to our client this morning who's in plastic surgery, so I made that reference. And if he explains his industry of plastic surgery, sometimes he can explain it as if he's talking to a room full of plastic surgeons. And he forgets what the general person that wants to fix something knows. So they might not understand what he's saying. So the most simplistic way, explain how wholesaling works.
Wholesaling at its simplest form is really just finding deals. That's all it is. It's a sales and marketing company. We market direct to sellers who might be, they might have some certain pain point, such as they have a vacant property or they inherited a property. It might be a landlord who the property needs fixing up. Cash flow isn't there, rental market's declined. So we're reaching out directly to these sellers and basically putting them under contract. Then we're able to decide what to do with that contract. We'll bring it to other investors. We'll add a fee for finding the property on top of it, and then sell our position in the contract to another investor.
Super easy. So just to recap how my understanding of it is, if you see a house that's an old rundown house, doesn't always have to be, but that's kind of the best case scenario. Like, hey, something's probably going on there.
Yeah.
You can find the person who owns that property. You say, hey, I'll buy this house for you cash for $120,000.
Yeah.
And if that works for them, you say, great, you get under contract with them. Now you have a contract. What is that called? Is this a slip? What is it?
It's contract.
Yeah, you have a contract with them.
Contract.
And then you take that and you can price whatever you want to a flipper or an investor and say, hey, I have a deal for you. Who wants it? Someone else buys it. You just give them the contract. Your hands are clean and you make the 5K, 10K, 20K, whatever.
Exactly.
What are some impressive numbers somebody's made up a wholesale that you know about?
There's a lot of people that do 6-figure wholesales.
Wow.
My highest one has been 67,000 on one wholesale. And I think that's a little bit of a piece that separates us, I would say, from other wholesalers, is I got into real estate through fix and flips. So I've been on the other side of the deal where the wholesaler made more than me. I've been on a deal to where it's like I overpaid for it and it didn't turn out that well. So for me, the separator is we are investors as well. So the deals that we're selling, we're underwriting them, looking at an investor standpoint. We're not just a wholesaler that's trying to slap a fee on there and, hit and run.
Right. Which is why it can have a bad reputation with some people, right?
Certainly.
I know like wholesaling is something, it's like real estate is already saturated. And I remember someone saying a while ago, when you get into real estate, talking about agents, you're going to deal with a lot of people because there's such a low barrier of entry. You're going to deal with a lot of people that aren't the most professional.
Sure.
And with wholesaling, there is no barrier of entry.
Yeah.
You can just do it. There's no license needed. So I could immediately leave here today with just what I've learned from you and try to start wholesaling.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing in the sense of the American dream is still alive. But at the same time, you get people that, this is something that happens in the world a lot. You get people that just get on social media, they get inspired. They've got 20% of the work ethic needed. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to get in and do this. And so they're the first few people that someone's talked to. And so when you come around with the very good operation and professionality, they're already burnt based on Jack and John who've already knocked on the door.
Definitely.
Flow of it.
Absolutely. And that we have that conversation all day long.
Like, I'm not like them, but you have to always explain, right? And that happens a ton.
And it goes back to brand, right? So did you build a reputation? Do you have a brand for yourself? Do you have a website they can go look at?
Yes.
It's like, have you built that trust in the community? We do the monthly events. So investors, come see me in person. You got a lot of wholesalers. They don't have an office. They're doing it out of their home. They're just trying to hit fees, hit and run. We're here to build relationships.
That's huge. I love that. And so on the lending side of things, so with DKC lending, is there lending given on wholesales, fix and flip? So someone's like, hey, I bought a wholesale, or they found a wholesale and they got a contract. And they're like, you know what? I want this myself. Is that when they come to you guys and say, can you guys write me a loan for that?
Yeah, so that's the great part about having great partners, right? Yeah. So David and Caleb, we will find investors and they'll purchase one of our properties. All of our properties are already pre-approved by DKC Lending for funding. So when you're buying one of our properties from Elite Cash Buyers, we can set up the private loan for you as well and connect you directly to the lender to where you can get preferred terms.
So a wholesaler can actually end up being the investor too.
Yeah.
They can actually,
Sure.
Right? Is that the kind of vibe? Like they can find the wholesale, but they don't have to always get rid of it. They can actually be the one that fix and flips it.
Yeah, absolutely. We do the same thing. I've done over 100 fix and flips, still do them here and there as well. So it's like, For me, the whole art of finding the deal is what's important.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Once you have the deal and you can get into the details, the first thing is go try to find one.
Yeah.
From being, we sponsor a ton of events. We've been at so many real estate events, and I've heard a lot of people tell their stories. How do you navigate finding people to do fix and flips? I find that's what everyone says is the most challenging part. And I've been in the room for many of experienced fix flipper. And like, once you can get past finding good GCs and good people,
Yeah.
you navigate that, or you just have good relationships?
It's a little bit of both. So having good relationships, working with local agents, the events. So we're building a community.
Yep.
There's certain tools and softwares that we use in the wholesale company, like Investor Lift. That's a platform. Essentially, it's like the MLS for off-market deals. So
This episode of the 8 Limbs Podcast is brought to you by Nootopia. Nootopia is an amazing nootropic solution for any entrepreneurs or high producers out there that are looking for a solution besides the traditional Adderall or Alpha Brain. Nootopia is a fully customizable box with 12 different compounds. I have personally been taking this for years. I have my entire team taking this as well, and it is an absolute game changer. There's some days you want to be social. There's some days you want to lock in and get focused data entry work, and Nootopia has a solution for you on any day. Use code Salazar to save 10% off.
helps you find other investors as well.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
So that's wholesaling, that's fix and flipping. I love that. When you're out there looking for deals, what are some of the ways that you guys have found other people steer themselves wrong? So how do people approach it that you're like, I wouldn't do that? And I'm sure you learned some lessons along the way.
Yeah, I've made 6 figures plus in mistakes along the way.
Yeah, you either pay in time or money, right?
That's
you
right.
You learn one way or another.
And I've certainly done both. Really, it's just not having a good team, I would say, and then not knowing how to underwrite the deal. So that's something that I've built Excel spreadsheets that, we just pass out for free that teaches someone how to look at the deal, how to analyze it. Is this going to be a good investment? What's your cash on cash return? What's the overall project ROI? Making sure that you're including all the closing fees, lending costs, things like that. It's very overwhelming, and there's a lot of moving pieces in a transaction. So it's easy for an investor to get caught up. They see HGTV, oh, I want to go flip a house. And, hey, the numbers are great. I'm going to buy this for $200,000. I'm going to put 25 grand into it. I'm going to sell it for $250. I'll make $25,000. It's like, well, you've got closing costs on the front end, closing costs on the back end, realtor fees, your budget. If you're going to stick to that 25,000 or not, you have holding costs. Are you using private money? Are you doing it cash?
Right. They're not expecting all these things, and then it takes one lump on the head, and you go, okay, I learned that lesson, I'll do it again. But some people probably do it once, get their ass kicked, and don't even try again.
Exactly. So it's like we're trying to help people avoid that. So it's like lean on the mistakes that I've made over the years. Let me tell you what I've gone through at least and share my experience with you.
Yeah.
And here's how you can have a easier path forward.
How often do people find wholesales now the old-fashioned way, the door-to-door? Is that even still a thing?
Yeah, actually, I've got a buddy, Sam, that he's been doing door knocking for 20 years. And he's built out massive door knocking teams. It's not something that I would say is super prevalent in the Tampa Bay market, but people still do it. It's a hard scalable model unless you're able to recruit the people to do it.
Mm-hmm. And then train them on what to say and how to flow the conversation.
Exactly.
I know cold calling is a big part of it, and the skip tracing, pulling lists, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's such an interesting game. You think there's like when people talk about making money in real estate, and I've learned this over the few years, it doesn't always mean being a real estate agent. There's so many ways people can make their money in real estate. It could be they're just working on the flips. They're putting cabinets in, but they're still involved in the real estate business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how do you feel that it's changed from you because you've been putting out so much content? We met through social media.
Yeah.
So we got connected because you were putting out a lot of content.
Yeah. And it's you've been a huge just voice in that and a great guiding factor in how important a personal brand is. Because when we first talked, I'm like, hey, I'm not super focused on it. I'm really in a growth stage in the business. I'm in a sprint right now. And you really changed my mind on how important a personal brand is.
Huge.
And for me, it's changed network credibility. So just being able to meet people that I probably wouldn't have met otherwise.
I heard this said recently, and it was so true. I wish I would have came up with it myself, but it's the best way to explain the difference in marketing and branding. And I'm using this now with all of our clients because it does give a good understanding. People are like, yeah, I'm marketing my business. Cool, fine. Your business is separate than you.
Sure.
And the statement is that marketing is asking the pretty girl on the date. An ask.
Okay.
But branding is whether she's going to say yes or not.
The trust.
What does she already know about you? Like,
Sure.
right? If you're the cool guy at school and the pretty girl already knows who you are and you ask her on a date, she'll say yes immediately because she already knew who you are and she already knew if it was a yes or not.
Yeah.
Right?
I
And
love
if it's a
that.
no, she knew it was a no or not. That's the difference in brand people don't understand. So the best way to differentiate the two, and yes, in any business, right? Like people buy Tesla because Elon Musk is involved in Tesla. Elon Musk bounced from Tesla, sold the company, moved on. Tesla stocks would plummet.
Yeah.
He's the thought leader leading the business. And he's got a way bigger following than this car brand.
Yep.
Right? A lot of the places are like that. So it's like the personal brand is so huge, exactly that reason. Credibility, that's it.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
I found this to be the case for myself. If I run ads from my marketing business, 8 Limbs Creative, I'll get responses, but I'll get a much better response if I run ads from my personal brand, Tony Salazar.
Interesting.
My name is bigger than my business brand.
Sure.
And I feel much better responses and much quicker credibility because they can quickly go look me up and look at everything I've done. And they go, oh, this dude understands video production and marketing and advertising way more than if they go to my business. They'll just see all the clients and it's just a different feel. So it's
What are the steps that you've gone through to accomplish that?
which
Just building that personal brand. I mean, you've got people listening now that are like, hey, I'm not really sure, but I'm going to take their advice. I want to start building a personal brand.
yeah.
What would you recommend them to do?
Well, first of all, I think the first thing I want to look right at you guys while I'm talking that everyone has to get through is you have to get super self-aware. You have got to know who you are and not who you want people to think that you are. You can only hold on a front for so long. And so I think where and we work with a ton of clients and most of our clients start to struggle when it comes to personal brand build is you'll find this out when you work with them. They actually aren't comfortable with the real world knowing them.
Sure.
They're like, no. I want to make it seem like this. I want to make myself seem like this. I want to make it seem like I don't have a belly. Can you take off 20 pounds on the camera? So there's this level of like, wait, now you're pretending to be somebody and the world can see right now, our generation, we're very hyper tuned to sense bullshit.
Yeah.
Our parents' generation wasn't around. Like they would watch Home Shopping Network and watch the news and believe it all.
Sure.
So if you're on TV, they're like, oh, it's got to be true.
Right.
Nowadays, everyone's constantly looking for a level of bullshit. And they're like, I'm not going to like that. This guy's being fake. So I think the first thing in branding is like getting through just not caring if people like you or not and just putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
I think I got lucky. I was telling this to Milena the other night. I got really lucky when it came to start making video content. I started early with a vlog, but I also was involved heavily in combat sports for a majority of my life. And all that gave me was like this level of like, it just removed this weird fear that doesn't even really come up, but it's the fear of like, you're not going to kick my ass.
Sure.
So if you don't like me, I
Now
don't
what?
care.
Yeah.
I just don't care. Like, it's like, you don't care anymore. And it's like, it never really comes up, but I do think it's in the back of people's mind a lot. They're like, well, I'm so afraid to tell that guy what I really think. Cause what if this guy just doesn't like me? And the what if leads them to this like paralysis.
Yeah.
Where early enough, I'm an opinionated guy as it is, but I was like, I'll just say how it is. I don't care.
Sure.
And then I realized quickly that if you make a statement and it's polarizing, but it's what you truly believe, a lot of people that agree with you are going to come forth and go, you're right. I agree.
Yeah.
Won't like it, whatever. So I think building a personal brand, one of the things now that people are struggling with is they are trying to come off too general.
Sure.
Everything. We were just saying that off air.
Yeah.
And they make a piece of content that's very forgettable.
Yep.
You see it and you go, yeah, I can't really critique that, but I also am not going to save it. I'm not going to share it. I'm not going to comment. I'm like, whatever, bro.
Yeah.
We get it.
Move on,
Dude.
forget
You're very
about it.
general. Like, good job, bro. And then move on.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of it. The second part is consistency. Getting through making content. People say consistency, but they don't really talk about it much. Same thing what you're saying, you're training for a triathlon.
Sure.
You gotta train, gotta put the time in.
Yeah.
So if someone does a piece of content in a studio like this once, and they look back at themselves and they rewatch it, oh man, I didn't like how I looked or how I spoke. Cool, go fix it. Good, you know what to do now.
Yeah.
And then when you do 70 episodes, you're like, oh wow, I'm actually starting to get recognized and noticed. But people will look at it in like a month-long game sometimes with content.
For sure.
They'll be like, oh, I did content for a month, but I'm not rich yet.
Yeah.
Shit doesn't work. And
Alex Hormozy had a great quote on that. He's like, I'm going to do this for 2 years.
Mhm.
And I'm probably butchering this to death, but he's like, I'm going to do it for 2 years, regardless of the result, and just see what happens and just be consistent at it.
that's it. I agree with that. And I think that is how we said it. I think that's the truth. And that's another thing that I always say, like, okay, I want to be really raw with this. This is a raw, like rough world that we're in.
Sure.
And if you look at just nature, the animal kingdom, right? If you look at like oak trees, beautiful, serene oak trees right now in the park, they look all peaceful and they're all nice and the wind's blowing them and you can relax and meditate. But underneath the soil, those oak trees are competing for resources. They're competing for hydration and nutrients. And those roots are at battle with each other. There's violence happening under the soil because one oak tree is like, I'm going to be the biggest and the tallest.
Right.
And that's in every single level of nature, from plants to animals, right? Animals have to die so others can eat. Okay. So when you're talking about this thing that we all want, which is wealth building, brand building, business building, money, security for our family, status, etc., we all want it.
Sure.
So of course there are going to be people who aren't willing to go get it. And so people are like, they can't stay consistent, or they can't do it for 2 years, or they aren't willing to. The answer for you guys is good. Then take the back seat.
Yeah.
Let us drive.
Get out of the way.
Because we're going. That's the only way I can approach it.
Yeah.
It's like you can't shake someone enough and say, dude, don't you want more for your family? Because if they're not willing to like stick to something or do something hard or do something strenuous, then they're not going to get it. But I do think it takes that. You see the Patrick Bet-Davids, the Joe Rogans, Alex Moses, these guys that we all know, they all have a story like that. How long they did it before anybody knew who they were.
100%.
But they were still doing it. And I can attest to how hard it is because I have a podcast, and it's so easy to get off of it because the day can take over, the week can take over, the month can take over. And before you know it, you're not booking guests, you're not stay active. I'm still creating constant content,
Right.
but it's very easy. Life will always try to pull you off course. So it's like that super intention setting. This is what I'm doing, and I'm going to hold myself to it.
Right.
You know, and I the 2-year thing Hormozy did, I think he did longer. He did something like 400 episodes of his podcast that didn't get any views. And now he blew up, and now all his old podcasts are all going viral.
Right. Yeah.
And so he's like, now the old content I make is now assets. That's the best way I think we're talking about real estate investing. Every piece of content is an asset, and it can always pop off later. A YouTube video can go viral 4 years later. So it is something that will bring you in audience. But if people can't do it, they can't do it. And it's like nowadays, I'm not really trying to convince people to make content if they're not the kind of person that's going to do it. It's just like fitness, just like anything else. If you're not going to get up, brush your teeth in the morning, and you're going to have bad teeth, and cool, accept that. What am I supposed to do? You know, like
get the results we deserve.
Yeah, you have to get out and do it. But that being said, it does help a ton to get going and to get seasoned doing this, and just you'll feel the flow of it. You'll feel how much people will start to compliment a video you made. Sometimes it's all it takes is someone makes one video and one person goes, hey man, I really like that. That was inspiring today. And all of a sudden this dopamine rush, oh my God, I'm changing lives. And that's all
it works.
We hear it and it feels good, right? And then the positive flow we move through, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's a great point.
It's just important to show a real self, tell our story, which is actually leads me to next, like, I want to hear your story.
Sure.
You have a story that I didn't know too much about when I first met you. And it's, I think it's a good story. I like these stories a lot. So, and Joe Rogan actually has done the best job of framing this better. And I'm going to say it exactly how he said it. He's like, no one really cares about the guy who was born to a successful family, did really good, played college sports, went to university, got the trophy wife, had the family, and got rich. He's like, who gives a shit about that guy?
Right.
He's like, I want to know about a guy whose life went down and then he cleaned it back up. That's the story we all care about. So let's hear yours. Let's get into it. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's and actually my wife has been a big proponent in this of really like just being an encouragement for me to share it, because at first I was like, you know, it's personal. I don't really want to share that. It was nervous for me, especially in real estate. I didn't want investors to, you know, hey, we're dealing with large amounts of money here. I don't want investors to think differently of me.
Totally get it.
And lately there's just, I've prayed about it a lot. And lately it's, I've just had this complete shift into where it's like, I am who I am.
Yeah.
This is who I am. And, you know, if my people are going to be my people. So the people that can appreciate that story are going to ride with me all the way.
Exactly.
And the people who aren't won't. And that's fine. Yeah. I'm good with that. So for me, it's like I went to prison when I was 19 years old for selling drugs. And I saw...
Before you even get into this, 19 years old is 19 years old, dude.
Yeah.
I did a lot of stupid shit when I was 19 years old, you know? Like, so like, to even say like, there needs to be no level of like, wow, like everything you went through has made you who you are. But at the same time, 19, dude, like what kind of know-how do we even have at that age?
Nothing. Nothing. I was a complete dirtbag.
So I want to hear the story. I just want to preface that without 19. Yeah. Like we're all just children, you know, like bumping into walls, trying to figure life out.
It's true. And I would see my dad, he's got a master's in business, and he would wake up and he would work from 5 a.m, 9 o'clock at night. And he was the one I learned my work ethic from. He is just a hard working man. And growing up, we weren't poor by any means, but we still struggled financially. You know, there were restrictions. We couldn't go, you know, wear the clothes we want and go eat where we want. There was always restrictions. And I just remember growing up and I'm like, he's working this hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, there's still not this abundance or freedom to do or get the things that we want. Why? Is this really what life is supposed to be? You're supposed to struggle your way through. And that messed with me for a long time. And so being a dumb kid, I found a shortcut. I'm like, well, I'm just going to sell drugs. You know, I'll make a lot more money that way. And rightfully so at my 19-year-old self. I mean, I started selling drugs when I was 16, 17 and finally got caught by the time I was 19 and went to prison for it.
And how long?
I got a 6-year sentence. I did 3 years in and 3 years out on probation and house arrest.
Okay. And so while in, what caused the change? Like, what caused you to go, whoa? Like, was it time to think in there? Was it time to read in there? What was it like?
There wasn't like this overnight change of like, oh, I'm going to decide to be a better guy, right? It was just this constant process of like, this isn't it. You know, you're in prison. It's when you look out, there's just rolls and rolls of razor wire. You're in the middle of nowhere. For me, I was 19. I was at a camp where most of the people there had 20 years plus.
Wow.
So it's like you go to sleep, you got your boots on, you're ready to fight. We were talking about making fun of my breathing earlier. I've been punched in the nose quite a few times.
Oh my gosh,
so
yeah, man.
Going through that, especially, you know, a white kid thinking you're tough. I learned real quick. And I remember going in, there was this older guy. He goes, you got 3 options in here, kid. He's like, you can fight, you can fuck, or you can run up a tree. And there's no trees. So those are the 2 options. Either you're gonna be a man, you're gonna stand up for yourself, or you're gonna be someone's toy. And so I just took that to heart. I'm like, you know what? Till the day I die, I'm gonna stand up for myself.
That's wild, dude.
And as many fights as I lost, I'm fighting every time.
Yeah. What else do you have, right? What else?
That's it.
That's amazing. That is actually. I'm actually seeing the beauty in all of that. Like people that are listening might be like, oh my God, that sounds crazy. But in my mind, I think that what you just said is what's so void from men right now. How many men have never even been touched in the face?
Yeah.
Never been headbutted, never had to struggle and fight and actually use this masculine animal we even have in us.
Right.
I swear, I think that's my superpower now.
Yeah.
I competed with world-class athletes and fighters for so long that right now, when I'm dealing with any kind of struggle and stress, I'm like, this is shit.
Right.
Like, dude, I used to have a guy that was trying to choke me unconscious in front of my girlfriend, my mom, and my entire family, and humiliate me.
Yeah.
That was like nervous. But it was way different than prison. But at the same time, I was constantly in this thing where you had to be physical and use aggression and learn how to like beat someone. Yeah. And now that's off the table, but it's still in my mind. It's still part of who I am, right?
For sure.
It's like, how many dudes now? And Melena's actually really guilty of this. Melena, she's very critical of men with like soft hands, and like soft demeanors. If she sees a man that looks like they've never done anything hard or like manly in life, she'll be like,
yeah,
dude, I shook his hand, you know, like that's the truth. Men need to have that, right? So I love that story. So you go in, you're in for 3 years, you get out. Yeah. After you get out, you're clearly like never doing that shit again.
Yeah, I mean, like, yes and no, because it was pathetic. Even getting out, I was still, you know, making mistakes, just doing dumb shit. And it's like when I was in, my grandfather almost died. And I remember being in there just helpless. Couldn't do anything. You had a certain time you can get on the phone that you might be able to get through to your family to hear what's going on, but you're worthless. You can't do anything to help the situation. So I remember feeling that and getting out, and it's just like, I'm never going to be in that position again. I will never do anything to put myself in that position again. And so it's like now when we run into problems, I was with somebody the other day and they asked me, you know, what do you think your superpower is? I'm like, dude, it's resilience. You cannot kill me. I will outlast and out-survive anything because the problems that I've been through, this is nothing.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like, I made that post on Instagram yesterday and it said, when boats were made of wood, men were made of steel. Right? And I asked you, I'm like, hey, what does that mean to you? And I got a lot of great answers, but it's the truth, right? Like, another quote that kind of lines into it is like, rare do you find a great man who is the son of a great man. Right. His dad did it. He made it too easy for homie. So now this dude's like, he already had money growing up. He never really had to fight in the streets because he lived in too nice of a neighborhood. Right. Everything about his life was so given and so soft. And all of a sudden this dude's in the world and he's like, wait, I don't have that dog in me that like, I feel like I need. My dad has it. Yeah. I don't have it. So I definitely think that going through that, any hardship you go through prepares you for any dealings you're going to do in life. And you can feel it on people. They get so frazzled and stressed over one little thing. I
Right.
think that's the greatest thing. You hear Dana White say it, who's a amazing business mentor to a lot of people, you know, what he did with the UFC.
Right.
But he made a video about it. He was like, you know, you wake up in the morning, you're going to walk down the stairs, and some days just be ready. Today's the day that you got a flat tire, you stuck your fucking toe, your number one employee quits, someone betrays you, this thing blows up in your face. It's like, let me get my breakfast and I'll start handling shit.
Punches in the
but
face
it's like every day it's like that. So just get used to it. The resilience is going to be so important.
Yeah. And it's like, you're a father. I've got 3 boys. You know, what are we doing to teach our kids adversity?
Yeah.
You love them, you care about them.
Yeah.
But it's like, I purposely want you to go through something because I want you to learn how to make decisions. I want you to experience adversity.
Isn't that the hardest part of it?
It is. Because you want to protect
I have
them.
a girl too, so it's so hard because I want her to be soft. Like, I don't want her to have that same hardness that I want my son to have if I have a son. I want my son to be, I'm going to probably be a monster of a dad for my son.
Sure.
Like, for sure. He's going to be fighting since he's 2 years old. But for my daughter, I want her to be soft and I want her to feel like, you know, like the men can handle it.
Sure.
But at the same time, like, what would you put her through to make her strong and smart and wise? It wouldn't be a super easy life. It wouldn't be some handed out life. So that's the trickiest part. Being a parent, so tricky. On the note of being a parent, what do you find that being a parent does for you as an entrepreneur? It helps or hinders?
I think it helps. I mean, entrepreneurship is leadership, right? And that's what being a parent is. Even being a husband, same thing. It's leadership. You know, how are you leading your household?
Love that.
Same thing. Same principles apply to how you're leading your business. How are you leading yourself as a man? What are your principles? Because you're going to be tested. Yeah,
agreed. That's so true. We're saying this, we're living in an area now, and you're here. We're here in Clearwater, Florida today, but we're in the Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater areas, all the same metropolitan area. With the mastermind I'm part of, with the groups I'm part of, I sometimes feel that I'm the only dad.
Sure.
I can quickly look around, I'm like, dude, no one has kids. All they do is just focus on stacking money all the time. And I'm like, it's crazy because in all fairness, we have made more traction in the last 2 years than almost any of our competitors.
Sure.
And we've got and we're parents and we're staying fit.
Yeah.
And so it does give me inspiration to be like, yo, you just got to squeeze your time out more. I think there's less time for the fun, the weekends, the drinking, the nightlife.
Yeah.
More time for the wholesome vibe. And I think as a parent, where it helps entrepreneurs so much is what our weekends look like are early outings. Maybe we'll go to the sandbar, maybe we'll go to the beach, we'll go do something, but we're back at home, we're chilling, we'll maybe order a pizza or grill some steaks, and we're in bed by 10 p.m. And I'm waking up on the morning, I'm going to train jiu-jitsu in the morning, where people who don't have kids are going out till 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
Doing all the substances, and they're around all that crowd, but I think it takes a toll on their mind, it takes a toll on their rest patterns over the weekend, and they're starting Monday groggy and foggy.
100%.
We're starting with like a heart full of like happiness from a family weekend and just a reason to go get it, you know?
That's why I love it, because it's like, I'm going to church Sunday morning. You're not catching me out at 2 a.m. Saturday night at the casino or something. I'm not doing it.
You're over at Radiant, right? And and the main location?
I go to the Clearwater one now.
Oh, okay.
Because we live over in Clearwater.
Have you been to the location in Tampa?
Yeah, that's where I started.
I heard it's awesome. They've got a full camera crane. It's good production in there, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
I think, shout out to Aaron Burke. I think that what he's done so amazing in the area. Elaine actually got me to go to Radiant as well. At the church. We'll go to the services, which we're still watching streaming, or we'll watch it on YouTube at home.
For sure.
But it's like what he's done is kind of what you said. I think he lives in a way which most men can take leadership from.
Yeah.
His physical fitness, his presentation, his speech, his enthusiasm. If you look at his life from at least from the outside, you're like, that dude is a leader.
Yeah. He's a role model.
Right? But how many of these pastors and these preachers, people that try to get you to sign up, enroll in their thing, whether it's a men's movement or a keto diet or vegan diet, but you look at them like, dude, but nothing about you inspires me. So why would I listen to anything you said? And it's harsh to say that, but that is so true. People are trying to pitch a lifestyle all the time, but they don't realize what they're not self-aware. Back to the point about content. They're not realizing how they're being perceived. Right. So like, I think he's built this huge thing because you can tell this dude's super enthusiastic about it, but I love his sermons for sure.
And it's like, to go back to that timepiece again, because I struggle with that, and Michelle and I butt heads on that early on. It was like, the vibe I felt from her was like, hey, it's either going to be work or family. And it's like, well, I'm not going to choose between them. And if I had to, it's, I want to work. Like I'm on a mission. I'm trying to, build something here. Mm-hmm. This is the mission I'm on.
It's hard for you to imagine the family without the work, because what pays for
exactly.
For the life, right? Yeah.
So it's like the shift that I had was, it's not going to be either or for me. I'm not going to put myself in that position. I want to create a well-balanced life. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I want a badass business. I want a badass family. I want a badass life. And I want to create a well-balanced life. So it's like, I want a badass business. I want a badass family. I want a badass life. And I want to create a well-balanced life. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I want a badass business. I want a badass family. I want a badass family. I want to be a great husband. I want to be a great father. I want to be a great athlete. You know, all these different things. I'm not going to sit here and choose between them. You do have to make priorities, but as a high performance person, you know, what are your top priorities and how are you going to create time to...
And it can be done, man. It can be done. I think now our generation, what we are so lucky for, and I am so grateful for, is the social media era. People can say whatever they want about it. Oh, it's so bad, so terrible. But guys, like, my entire life has been shaped from me finding the Joe Rogan podcast in 2014. And I started being exposed to shit I would have never read a book about. Started being exposed to biohacking trends. And I was in jiu-jitsu. That's what led me to Joe Rogan's podcast. I was already doing jiu-jitsu. But now it's like, we know what's possible and then we strive for it. If without social media, do you know who you'd be following? Your uncle.
The
dude you worked with. And the tire shop when you're 18, that's your inspiration.
Your world's
you
so
wouldn't
much
have
smaller.
this understanding of, like, we wouldn't see these guys like the Michael Chandlers, the Ed Milets, the Patrick Davids, but it's like now we all see that. And I think you're starting to see more and more people, especially men, are considering that to be their win. Where the win, for instance, like my mom and I always talk about this, for her, the win, for me, she'd been proud of me even if I was completely overweight, as long as I just went to church on Sundays and we had family dinner and I had a good job with good benefits and I could make 40 grand a year. And she's like, I'm so proud of you. You're living the best life. That's what the win is for her.
It's true.
And then it's like, my win is so different. I've always said this, like, if I make it to 50, I don't still have a six pack, I know I fucked up somewhere. Because I've had that for so long and that's part of my personal standard. Part of personal standard is that I can be very efficient at violence if it ever needs to come up. So I still actively train martial arts because I just don't want to ever be that dude that I used to be good at fighting. I used to train, but not anymore. Like
back in the day.
I'm still doing that. But at the same time, cool. How important is it that my daughter loves me and wants to come cuddle me and watch a movie and I can teach her about things? How important is that I have present time with my partner? And then there's the business. And it's like, it seems overwhelming at first, but it almost like they all piggyback off each other.
They do.
So if you're getting good rest habits, you're waking up feeling recharged. If you're going working out hard, then you leave the gym with energy. And then you go, yo, I'm just the type of person that I just demand more out of myself at every single area of life. So like, you might excel in one thing and you're like, well, I'm going to get that same level. For me, I did jiu-jitsu for almost 20 years. And I'm a second-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. And I know that's so rare to get. So I feel now I'm rare and I'm going to have the same level of rare success in the marketing business. And I'm going to have the same level of rare success and how fit I can stay at the age I'm at. And it just piggybacks off each other. I find those things are so huge. If you just commit to only one, if you're like, okay, I'm going to be the ultimate family man, you're going to fail your family somewhere because you're going to let your fitness go and you're probably let your finance go. You're going to miss those two because I meet men sometimes that they're too present with their kids. Unfortunately, they tell me like, it's all about the kid. I'm like, but man, when they look back and you're 50, they're going to look at you and go, what did you let yourself become for me? Like
100%.
I think the better way to parent is to like just trailblaze and have your kids go, dude, my dad's a fucking savage. Look at him go. Look at him go. That's where all those things tie in, you know?
And you said it, standard. What is your standard across the board? You know, it's like, I feel like a lot of people don't really define that. You know, it's like Michelle and I sat down and did it as a family. Here's our family standard. Here's who we are. Here's our principles. This is what we make decisions.
I love that.
Based on.
The quote, it's a Jim Rohn quote, but I believe it's to be true. He says, we never reach our wildest dreams, but we always reach our lowest standards. So like whatever your lower standard of your life, that's what you will 100% reach that. You won't allow yourself to sink below. But if you think, what's your wildest dreams? But you won't think about the wildest dream, but your standards. So like our house is pretty tidy and clean because Elena is a very tidy and clean person. And I know her, like, she's constantly cleaning it, or I can go make a mess and it's like, it disappears. All right. As much as that may be annoying to live with me who's throwing shit around, her standard is my house is very clean and tidy. And she never lets that slip. And it's like so cool to see those little standards because that's not my personal standard for a random Monday afternoon. But for her, it's like boop, 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 just constantly putting things back in place. For me, it's fitness. Like I won't go 2 days without hitting a hard workout. You know, and for some people, it could be $1 million cash in the bank. And if they see anything less than that, they're like, oh my God, I'm broke. I'm freaking out. That's something I could learn more from too, you know? The standards are huge and they shape us. What is the endurance world like right now? You're doing triathlons, which is your fitness. And by the way, I will say, I watched you change shirts earlier. My man is shredded, looking good, like the athlete that he's claiming to be here. What does the training look like for you?
Wake up, hit the gym every day, lift, and then hit a bike, run, and swim every week. So right now I'm just doing the Olympic triathlons, and my goal is to hit one every quarter, just stay in shape.
it seems like the endurance sports, like your crew is all in endurance sports. Did you get brought into that through the guys you know, or is this
Yeah.
you already like? Yeah.
So shout out to David Clements. He's the one
gonna
that,
say that.
dragged me into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're constantly competing every
I love that.
every single thing.
It's so healthy to have. Like when I met Rob and I met you and David, I met I think two other guys, and they all seem to be endurance athletes. I'm like, I love that they're a squad and you guys are doing the thing, which is so good to have. Where a lot of men fall off of fitness, I believe, is because they spend too much time. This is funny. They spend too much time playing with balls, guys. If you spend all your time in high school and college playing with balls,
There you
then
go.
all of a sudden when college is over and all the ball sports are done, basketball's over, football's over, soccer's over, how often are you still working out anymore? Now that thing that you used to do, that you moved your body and you did, is over.
Right.
So now you become that dad with the belly at the gym who just goes and hits bench press while he messes around and he leaves and he's like kind of doing a thing,
Yeah.
but he's no longer actively getting pushed. So endurance sports and martial arts, I think, are the thing that and things like CrossFit, clubs, because you're there with other people actively competing. That's
Right.
it's a pulling force.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's why jiu-jitsu has been so popular over the last 20 years, because you can be a guy who wrestled in college, or you can be a dude who's a 35-year-old dad and you come to the jiu-jitsu club and you're like, wait, I can just still do this. I can still compete on the weekends if I wanted to.
Right.
But even training, I'm still doing live sparring rounds, competing. It's super fun. It's active. It's live resistance. It's fast thinking, and it's addicting. And you're like loving it.
Right.
Where do you guys compete on time? Was it Strava? How do you guys measure that?
It's really our watches, Garmin watches, and then on race day, competing with on race day as well.
And you can't really sprint, so you're just like pacing. What is
It's a little. I mean, we do the sprint races too, so it's like it's a shorter race. So we'll just compete on time, and it's just always like constantly pushing each other.
Yeah.
And you hit it on the head. It's like, who are you around?
Yeah.
Who are you around that's pushing you and raising your standards?
Mhm.
You know,
I believe that to be true. Yeah, you got to be around. I made a post about that today. Leaving my hometown completely changed my life.
Yeah. What was that like for you?
Dude,
talk about that a little bit.
That was nuts. It was like, I lived in Lakeland, Florida, which is only an hour from here, but it's a different world, man. Lakeland, Florida is stuck in the 1950s. No one there is doing anything on the internet. There's no content creators. There's no influencers. People do businesses there. It's like they keep to themselves about it. There's no trailblazing happening anywhere there.
Sure.
So I really lacked on inspirational people around me. I had my jiu-jitsu coach, who was a huge part of my life, and that was what kept me there for so long. I would probably left a lot earlier, but I had a world-class jiu-jitsu coach, and I was competing on a team, and I had my squad there, a big clan of us. So that was what I stayed in Lakeland for. I was going to leave earlier to move out here to St. Pete. So after I got my jiu-jitsu black belt, I just decided it was time to go. So COVID happens. And in the middle of that, almost all of our clients that were on monthly retainer for marketing services shut doors, med spas, gyms, and restaurants. And so I was like, well, nothing else is going on. So it just kind of forced me out. And that was when the real estate marketing side opened up for our business.
Okay.
So I moved here to St. Pete, and then real estate video became a thing that people needed, and it became a surging thing. And so I saw this opening and we jumped in to do that. But being in St. Pete, I think the biggest thing, like we were just talking about the boat, we just got a boat this weekend, and it's like, that's like the final check off list of like everything I would have ever wanted. And I mean this, like from the vehicle drive to the partner I have, to the house we live in, to the lifestyle we're living, to the friends we have, to how happy my daughter is and how thriving. I look at life now and I go, this is everything I would have ever wanted. If someone showed me a snapshot of today 4 years ago, like, dude, this is the life, I wouldn't have believed them.
Right.
I wouldn't have even come close to believing them. But it was that got around bigger thinkers. I moved out here, and because of the jiu-jitsu background, I was very actively seeking a club environment. So I visited all the martial arts schools in the area to find out which one I was going to stay at. And then I started meeting dudes. Oh, we play volleyball. Cool. So I'd come join dudes. And because of the jiu-jitsu, people are very impressed because of Rogan about a jiu-jitsu black belt. People hear that, and it actually carries weight in this world, even if you don't do it.
For sure.
You know how rare that is. It's not a belt they give out. It's a 12-year thing, and it's like a lot of commitment. So people are like, holy shit, come with us. And I'd get invited to things. I was able to climb social circles quickly because of that, I think.
Sure.
And so I got around people, and before I know it, it was about a year I've been here. I'm on boats every single weekend with all these dudes who lived on waterfront homes in Snell Isle and Shore Acres and just had all the things I couldn't believe. And I'm talking to them, what's your business? Random. What's your business? Some random thing. And I'm like, all these dudes have figured it out.
Yeah.
And I remember we're wake surfing. We're riding down Shore Acre, Snell Isle. We rode from the north side of Snell all the way to Riviera Bay, which is in the very south side by Wheaton Island. And we'd surf from this little inlet over there.
Yo.
And we're riding on the boat, and it's like a 30-minute boat ride, and you're passing houses. And I'm talking, I don't know if it's thousands, maybe it's hundreds of homes, but they're monster homes on the water. And I remember sitting there one day, kind of spacing out, looking at them, just going, look at how many people have figured out how to get rich.
Yeah.
Look at how many people. That is that level of abundance. They're like, dude, people just do this. In my hometown, there wasn't that. So in my mind, I was like, yeah, they had money. That's what my mom would tell me. They were born into it.
Right.
They got lucky with something. And I was I don't mean this in disrespect to my homies, but I was on these boats with these guys, listening to them talk, thinking to myself, none of these dudes have anything I don't have. Like, they're not like just geniuses. Right. You know, some of these are just chugging beer and living the way. I'm like, okay, like I can do this too. So I had the same business. I was out 8 Limbs Creative, but I just got really serious about what I wanted from it. Yeah. And then we were able to scale it. And then now we go back to our hometown, my hometown, and I feel how slow it is there and how people are there. Nothing's happening there, and all the restaurants are closing down there. And it's like sometimes just moving your plant and planting it in different soil can be all you need. Yeah, you know, and it's huge. I think that's like I encourage that, especially to men, if they're living in their hometown where they grew up at, and they're not living in a place where there's a lot of inspiring people. They need to leave, because you go create the version of who you are. You know?
And I actually took your lead on that. Talk a little bit about vision boards, because you put something up that you created one. And I'm like, dude, that's a great idea. I went and did it the next week.
Everything in my life has come from vision boards, I believe. I got lucky enough to be exposed while I was in Lakeland, actually, to the movie The Secret, documentary Secret. And then I read the book. Then I got into Bob Proctor, who was one of the producers of that movie. And I understood the law of attraction kind of at that time. I understood that if you focused and looked at something, it would happen. And then people can go back and forth, because I had this super high belief in law of attraction. And actually, for like those 2 weeks after learning about that movie, I was like, everything's happening how I'm seeing it. And then I remember actually watching someone I idolized, which is Joe Rogan, making fun of it. And then my belief went down. I was like, yeah, maybe it is just bullshit. I need to be serious, you know? And then honestly, like, it got me away from it for a couple of years, you know? And the beauty of social media is you can choose to be inspired, you can choose to be entertained, right? So I always gravitate to inspiring content. So the vision board became something that I did really understand. If you want to entertain the idea, like if we're a magnet and we're casting out a frequency, we're sending out a signal somewhere. Where are we sending it to? If our thoughts are let to run wild, we think about complete nonsense. Most of us are set to the frequency of pessimism. We're just, oh God, I don't want this to happen. Holy shit, I hope this doesn't happen. I will be so mad if she got with him. You know, like all the things we think about.
It's true.
So the vision boards make so much sense. You're actually giving yourself something. It's like goal setting, but you're actually looking at it. So what I do with vision boards, I used to make them and put them on like cork board. And I would cut them for magazines, or I'd print things out. And I've been doing this for years. I'd put them in my bathroom somewhere. I used to glue them. When I remember the old house, I would glue them all around my bathroom. I would take pictures. So, you know, everything I have now is from a vision board. That super nice cold plunge was on my vision board before I had the owner of Cold Plunge on my podcast, and he gave me a free cold plunge.
That's awesome.
That was completely manifested. I did a video where I walked over and snatched it off the board and then showed it being delivered to my house. And I've done that with my Raptor. That's awesome. With the house we're living in, with the boat we just got this weekend, with everything in our life. It's just, you make a vision board and you make it in a place where you can't not see it. So how we do ours is I have mine on my computer background and my phone background. So you can go to Canva. You can easily create this. You know, Milena made something really pretty for me that looks dope, but I have things that I want. So I've got a check written to myself for $10 million to my name. I've got affirmations. I lead and protect. I'm an opportunity magnet. Discipline in big letters there, just to remind me, because you are staring at it. Even if you don't bring your eyes to focus on it, you subconsciously absorb what's there. And so I have constantly just been taking things off the list when we get them and adding new things there.
Love that.
And so now it's less possessions and it's more feelings. I have the vision board now set up in a way where there's a lot of financial wealth and some monetary goals, but there's also an image of a dude sitting there on the side of like a creek, calm and meditating. And to me, that's like, you have all these things, but your life's at peace while you have them. Because that's the next thing. You could forget, right? You could, it's almost easily. You can make a wish, you can forget what you're getting. We just watched Wonder Woman 1984, the second one, where they had that wish stone where people would make a wish. And the twist was you get your greatest desire, but then you also lose the thing that you love the most too. And they didn't know that that was happening to them. So it's like, if we are only manifesting material and finance and aesthetics and wealth, then we might forget to manifest joy and peace and calmness and all the things that we actually want to. So I focus. I think vision boards are absolutely huge. It's fun. It's fun to do, but I think people get together and do these vision board parties, I don't think that's the way to do it. That's almost like treating it too lightly. It should be very serious to you. I think you should do it alone. Take your time and focus on what your life really wants to look like.
Right.
Put it on your phone background, put it in your computer background, print them out, stick them all over your bathroom mirror, stick them in your kitchen, whatever these things are.
Yeah.
And you can't help it. Something I've done for years is I actually have, I've got a picture of a shredded dude.
Okay.
Like a random men's body.
Yeah.
That's is in my home gym, bathroom mirror, all over. And someone can come over like, dude, how gay is that? Why is this on your wall? But again, if you don't picture like this is what I look like, this is what I'm going to keep looking like. This is how my physique is going to look. I'm manifesting physical health.
Yep. If
you don't do that, it can be so easy to have a couple of bad cheat days and have a day where you don't fit the gym. And now your internal self-talk is, I'm such a piece of shit, bro.
Right.
Oh, I'm going to start losing muscle and getting fat now. And
I failed.
You tell yourself that. What happened? But myself, no, that's the way I am. It's that Spartan guy. And
that's my standard.
That's huge, dude. I think that's powerful.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
What'd you put on your vision board?
It's, so actually, got it right here. It's,
if we can show the screen, if you guys can see this. Tell me yours first before I...
No, I've got the same thing. I've got my wife, just different things like present, fulfilling, God-serving, purposeful, husband and father. And then same thing, but physical, 190 pounds, less than 13% body fat.
So huge.
Competitor.
Specific.
Yeah. Speaker, amount of deals. I want clothes, all that stuff, dude.
Oh, it looks good. Man, I love that. So I actually want to give shout out to Milena Monroe, who's behind these cameras. She was the original inspirer of the phone. And you don't realize how many people have done that now. I'm part of a coaching group. It's called Acre Alliance, and it's real estate media companies nationwide. So we got flown out to Tulum earlier in the year to speak to other real estate agencies. And when I got on the Zoom call and I was coaching them, I didn't decide to coach these guys on how to take better real estate pictures and videos. Mine was more like, how do you become Bruce Wayne?
Okay.
Because if your clients aren't viewing you as an equal in business, they're viewing you as the photographer.
Right.
And they're trying to pay you a couple $100.
Sure.
You know, and not 5 figures for these shoots. So my perspective was like, what do you guys wear? How do you guys dress? What do you look like? How do you sound? Do you have a personal brand? Why would your client ever buy a personal brand from you if you have not? You don't have one, right? So we talked about the vision board, and these dudes in this group chat, there's like 70 people that attended this, are sending me for weeks their screenshot of their vision board. And that was like the thing that stuck out the most. And I kind of glazed past it. Yeah. But I was like, wow, they really did that. And it's so cool to see, because I really do believe it has changed or capacity for huge change in people's lives.
100%. I'm living proof right here. Yeah. So Milena, thank you.
Yeah, that was her. That was Monroe. I think that people can do a lot more for their partners too, right? Like you were saying, you're married, family, right? And I'm soon to be, I've got an amazing woman over here too. It's like when you have a partner that's worth it with you, it makes life 10 times better. Absolutely. Imagine being like a single, kidless entrepreneur right now, right? Like what would it feel like? What does life feel like? Where does that recharge, right? You're in bed at night alone and you're laying there. And like it'd be a vapious existence that I wouldn't want to deal with. Yeah. But I think a lot of people could actually use that vision board for their partner a lot more than they think. Like write down the qualities of the person, not the image, not just the image, but like what are they like? How do they make you feel?
Dude, that's how I got married.
Them. Really?
Yeah, I had a coach at the time, and I was talking to him about getting married. And I was in this weird relationship at the time. Things weren't really going that well. And he's like, dude, you need to sit down, figure out exactly what you want in a wife, pray about it, and just figure out exactly what it is you want. And I literally saw Michelle the next day, and it was just like a light bulb.
You knew it was
went
her.
off. I knew it was her.
Oh
it was the
gosh,
weirdest
awesome.
experience. And as I got to know her, every single thing that I said that I wanted in a wife, she checked the box for it. So
that's amazing. Where'd you meet her at?
Weirdest story, but
we like it. Here we go.
She was the manager of a Chick-fil-A, and so
I love that. I love that.
So I was driving through getting food, and I just I looked through and I just saw her standing in there, and so I was like, "Hey, come here for a minute." I just stuck out my hand and introduced myself.
I love that.
Like, listen,
much.
take my number. I would love to. I would love to take you to lunch or dinner or something. And
she goes, but not here.
Yeah, 100%.
I love that, dude. That's good. That's good.
It was the weirdest
thing. Stories should be more random, right? People expect stories to be like, well, I got off the train, and it's like all this, like, dude, come on. It's like we're living real life, right?
Yeah.
I agree with that so much. Something I was saying to some friends too. I do not think that dating apps are a good thing, and I almost think we're watching Jurassic World last night, right?
Okay.
And Jeff Goldblum. I forget his character in the movie, but Jeff Goldblum, you know who he is, the actor.
Yeah.
He's doing this whole bit trying to convince basically like Congress to go bomb the island the dinosaurs are on because like we should not have recreated them. This is going against nature.
Sure.
They don't need to be here. And like that's what dating apps are. If you really think about like how God intended or how whatever was intended, we're not meant to go shopping for people online like we're shopping for shoes.
Yeah.
And people do that and they base it 100% off just sexual attraction immediately and don't even care about character. And it's really rare those end up to be anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, like if you're supposed to find your person, life is going to bring you together. You're going to bump into their car at the grocery store.
Right.
Right. You're going to see them at the car wash. You're going to find that person in life. It's not going to be something where you have to like shop for, run paid ads in a funnel for a person to be your wife.
True.
Like you're supposed to find each other and it's going to happen. It's really rare. So I think what happens is a lot of people, they go the dating app route. And they're actually pushing Mrs. Right or Mr. Right away because their energy is still set to, I'm still shopping all the time.
Yeah.
And like,
drop your standard.
I said this to a friend recently. It was like, hey man, the woman that you're going to end up marrying, do you think that she's going to be perceptive and smart? Yeah, for sure. How about her intuition? Yeah, it's going to be great. Cool. So she's going to be a pretty aware person. Will she be easy to take advantage of or trick? No. Cool. So why would she end up with you?
Right.
Right? Like if she meets you now, what's her read of you going to be?
Right.
Mr. Swiping online every night, right? Like she's going to feel that you're not the guy right away. She's going to move on. And you're saying, I can't find the right one because you're not the right one. You're not attracting the right one. I think that's the case with a lot of people.
You got to be the person that you want to be attracted to.
And then boom, life just pulls you together. And I think sometimes people can meet, but they meet maybe too early.
Sure.
And they're not ready yet. But that's a really cool story. Me and Milena have a really cool story too. We were... She worked for 8 Lumps Creative prior to us getting together.
Okay.
So she worked for the business.
Okay.
You know, just on her own merits. You know, I hired her in the company and she started to just excel in the business. And we got
How'd that
to know each other.
interview go real quick?
I mean, it went like this. I was hiring and she applied on Instagram on a DM, but it was something where it was like, we got to know each other really, really slowly. So compared to most people that try to date, they try to meet someone. I think what a date is. A date is, I'm attracted to you in some way. Usually it's physical.
Yep.
Let's go talk to each other and see if I can make you fit this box that I need you to fit in.
Sure.
Let me see if I can make you fit. Like, I need a star piece. Are you a star piece?
Yeah.
You're not, but I'm going to pretend like you are and I'm trying to make you fit.
Right.
And that's how people date. So it was the complete opposite. She was really performing at work and we spent a ton of time together, but we got to know each other platonically for months and months and months. And we just spent so much time where after a while, like I know this person inside and out. I respect this person. I know her past now. I know her stories. And the dust just kind of settled and we're both like, you my fucking person?
Right.
You know? And like, and then boom, then here we are.
Did we just become best friends?
I love that story. Yeah, we did become best friends first. And I love that story more than it's like, well, she was at the beach and I loved her ass. So I hit her up and then we hung out. And then before, you know, like that's what most people's stories are.
Yeah.
They're just completely like, they try to make someone become this thing for them. And they don't even know who they're getting involved with.
It's true.
So it's like, they're approaching it the wrong way.
Yeah. Michelle and I did the same thing. We spent months talking about values. You know, it's like, listen, here's my standard. Here's the values. Here's what I'm looking for. It wasn't just like, oh, now we're dating and, you know, off to the races type of thing. It was very, very intentional.
I love that. Michelle's super, super, super sweet too. She's got such a big, bright, feminine energy to her.
Yeah.
I've only met her 3 times, but all 3 times she just got this huge smile, big hug, super nice. And it's like, I've actually complimented her and how good she makes you look to Milena a couple times.
Yeah.
Like someone's partner can say a lot about them.
Sure.
So if you're a dude and you're a single dude, I have question marks. Now I'm like, okay, somebody can't put up with your shit somewhere.
Sure.
Like you have some question marks, right?
Yeah.
And if you're a dude and your wife is mean or like doesn't present well, I don't mean like isn't super hot, but just presents like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Like you're like, damn,
very off-putting.
You're not, now you're no longer as respecting of that man because you're like, damn, you got to go home to that type of vibe. Your life got to suck.
Good luck.
You know? So it's like, for real, when you meet someone and the partner is very beautiful and very kind and very sweet in a business setting, I immediately have so much more respect for people. Right. And I remember the first time I've met you multiple times, but when I met Michelle the first time, I was like, immediately your status level was like, boop, boop. I mean this, like for real, because I'm like, wow, like that's his wife. That's a huge flex to have such a sweet, kind person. So
that's a great perspective.
That's a real, someone's partner says a lot about it. The same for women. I don't think any woman, and people want to pass over women's desires way too much because it's all about the man, what the man wants. It's all we talk about anymore, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I don't think any woman ever wants a dude to come in that looks like just an out of shape slob. It's like just really embarrasses them. It's like, hell yeah, that's my dude right there.
Right.
That's my
guy.
It's
like, how are you going to take care of me if you can't take care of yourself?
It's the same thing. So we represent each other so much, and that's something that I think a lot of couples should also talk about, you're saying values is like, hey, like this is my personal standard for how I want to present and my fitness and my eating and everything. And what's yours? Cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to make sure we keep this promise to each other that we're going to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
I've heard it happen from men a lot where they'll get married to a partner and the partner completely lets image go because that she got him under contract. Now,
Yeah.
You know, she got that thing under contract.
Lock the deal
And
up.
now he's like, well, this is no longer the end of the deal. But she's like, well, there's a contract. So what are you going to do?
Burnt the inspection period.
Definitely finding a good partner makes your life 10 times better. So we touched on wholesaling. We touched on fitness. We touched on the previous story, which I'm glad I got to know a little bit about.
Yeah.
Touched on family, touched on faith. What I want to know is how can people work with you and they want to make some money in real estate. They want to make some money in wholesaling. And they just watched a video on Instagram that's like wholesaling super easy, right?
Sure.
And they live local and they're about to go start making some cold calls randomly. What would you recommend they do? Would they come and talk to someone like you? Do you recruit people? Do you have a sales staff? Like, what does your business look like?
Yeah, so we've got a sales team. We've got cold callers that are overseas, and then we have stateside closers. So these are the people that are talking to the leads.
So you get appointment setters, then you got people that speak English that close them better.
Exactly.
Yeah, much
so
better flow.
these are stateside people here locally.
Yeah.
So for somebody that's like, hey, I want to get into wholesaling, there's really like a couple ways to go about it. And you talked about it earlier with just the barrier entry. Really, it's either like time or money, right? So if you got a ton of time, you'll be able to do it with very low amount of money. Or if you don't have a ton of time, you need to invest a significant amount of marketing dollars.
Yeah.
So it's like for us, we have a team, it's an actual business. We have a marketing budget every month that's significant to feed enough leads to that team.
To cold call, to buy list.
Cold call, to buy data, for other marketing channels as well, office space, things like that, support staff. So it's really to support them. And when I talk to someone that says, hey, I want to get into wholesaling or I want to get into real estate, I want to learn, the first thing that I always go towards is come learn how to do acquisitions. So come get on the phones, learn how to talk to sellers. I'm going to teach you sales. We do trainings every week. Every day we're having conversations. So you're going to learn sales. You're going to learn how to talk to people. You're going to learn how to find deals, right? And then you're naturally going to learn how to underwrite deals as well.
I love that.
So when you learn how to find a deal, then you start learning the other aspects of the business as well. And and even if it's not with me, it's like, say you're in a different market or something, it's like, go find somebody that's doing what you want to do at a high level and go solve a problem for them.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Solve real problems for people.
Exactly.
I just had a conversation with a buddy yesterday that was like struggling in his business, and he's trying to run this business for like 4 years since I met him. He's still struggling in the exact same business. And I had a pretty hard talk with him yesterday, actually. It was a really positive conversation.
Sure.
But then he was like, what should I do? And I was like, bro, I got to be real with you. Like, I'm still wondering why you haven't figured out that the thing you're doing isn't people's problems. Like, people don't want what you're selling. And you need to pivot, And he was like, you think so? I'm like, yeah, like people, you would know.
It's not working.
People need, yeah, right? So like if people's doors aren't staying open, they're not buying a door stopper.
Right.
They don't need a door stopper. They're not thinking about door stopper. You can go sell a door stopper all day, but they're like, what the fuck do I need that for?
Right.
My door auto closes.
Yeah.
So they're not thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like solving real problems for people is a huge part of business that people miss sometimes. I've been there many times. I've created products and systems and I'm like, people don't want to buy it.
Yeah.
I didn't even test it before I did it.
I've done the same. And it's like the other piece too is like, go hire a coach.
Yeah, that's huge. But people don't want to do that because they don't want to spend the money. That's the thing. And that's the people that aren't willing to compete, right?
Exactly.
Like, if you're willing to take the risk, like the future belongs to the risk takers.
Yeah.
The people that we know right now in our society that are the most inspirational, taking the biggest risk, and they get paid heavily for it.
Yep.
The people who play a safe life, like no one's ever like, man, played a really safe my whole life and it paid out for me. It's like, no, it's so boring. So like, yeah, take the risk, but it comes with that level of self-belief, and you're either going to pay in a lesson. You paid $5,000 for a coach.
Yeah.
Nothing happened, but you learned a lesson.
Right.
You learned some shit through it. I bought an online course the other day that I paid $1,000 for. And the only thing I learned was how to make a video start differently.
Sure.
It was like I learned about 3 seconds. But I'm like, yeah, I could see that being worth $1,000. Really?
Right.
It's one little thing added. I'm not gonna be like, oh man, I'll never invest again in myself. That's the huge thing. Put money in coaches and yourself, in courses and events. They always pay off.
Yeah. And my buddy Paul Sparks, he's got a mastermind called the Whale Club. He does a great job of articulating that about just taking asymmetric bets.
Yeah.
So it's like, what was an asymmetric bet that I can take in my business where I'm going to minimize risk, but there is going to be risk involved, but what's the asymmetric upside? So it's the worst case that this month I'm going to spend 20 grand on marketing.
Mhm.
What is the worst thing that's going to happen? I'm going to lose 20 grand.
Yeah.
But the best thing that could happen is I could go lock up 4 to 6 deals from that and make 150 grand.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times nowadays, that's why I've been telling a lot of people, there's really zero risk with spending money on personal brand building,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're doing call to action marketing, like you're like, hey, I'll buy your property, and you spend 20 grand, you don't get any deals, it maybe did not work, and you're
Sure.
like data. But if I spend $20,000 on videos like this, on boosted posts, on sponsored ads, on promotion spots, that 20 grand got me seen by 100,000 more people.
Yeah.
And that does pay dividends later in the future assets. So
For
you were just
sure.
investing in yourself. You were the brand. And that's when I tell clients, like, there's no risk.
Right.
You know, you're just being known by more people.
Yeah.
So I love it. So let's wrap up with this. 5 years down the road, you blink and it's 5 years from now. What does life look like where you're like, hell yeah, I made it?
That's a good question. That's a great question. 5 years down the road, for me, it's definitely just having a business that I built a great team that is providing great opportunities to everyone on that team. So everyone is, earning 7 figures on that team and just being able to provide those opportunities. Having a great family, great marriage. So Michelle's happy, fulfilled. We've, hit our stride as far as with the kids and being great leaders to them, great parents. Yeah, man. Really, really just pushing in all facets of life.
Love that. And then the last question, Rabbit, what is something that you fear most that keeps you motivated? Like one of your fears, like your daily fears.
One of my daily fears, I would say, is just, it's a good question. One of my daily fears is not figuring it out.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is just waking up and not being able to be the leader that I feel like God has created me to be.
Yeah.
That's one of my daily fears.
Yeah. It's almost like the fear. What I hear there is the fear is that like more influence comes from the devil than from God, right? Like that's
true.
I think that's like, that is the big fear. Like there's a million fears, the fear of going broke, the fear of breaking my leg, the fear of this, the fear of that. But I think the biggest fear is like losing momentum for me.
Giving up.
Like, yeah. Like, right. Waking up one day and going, I can't keep pushing.
Yeah.
And so what's so cool about fear, if you learn to play with fear, is that if you learn to harness fear, you go, shit, what's the worst fear? The fear is that I wake up one day super unmotivated, I get fat, I get lazy, and I lose my late night, I'm gonna lose my family.
Sure.
And then you focus on that for a minute, and that should create an immense amount of emotion in you.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, there's my fuel for the day.
Right.
You go hit some rows in the gym and you're on the way. So it's like, that's a good way to play with fear.
For sure.
Well, guys, on that note, go follow Mike Jones. How can they find you on social media? And also, how can they attend your events?
RE Mike J on social media, Instagram, Facebook. The events, we do them the 4th Thursday of every month. Right now, we're doing them at Station House in St. Pete. So you can find it on our Instagram. We always put out details there and you can sign up there.
Well, man, well, it's been a pleasure. Absolute pleasure. And guys, see you next time.
Thank you, my brother.